went and played something else, and they just never went back and finished it. But I heard there's a good recap at the beginning of the second one, so I'll probably pick it up and try to push through it. And it looks gorgeous.
Cool, yeah. It's coming out for Switch, too, isn't it?
It is actually coming out for
which
Switch.
Is kind of exciting.
You should play it. Yeah, actually.
I've got such a backlog right now.
First-person shooter fan anyways, right?
I don't know. Splatoon.
You just haven't found the right shooter.
Maybe I haven't really played many either.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, so that's the one that I didn't play, but you guys were able to play a lot of Mario. Super Mario.
Mario.
We beat it. Me and Buddy both beat it.
Me, Mario.
And by beat it, we beat the main story, and it's amazing.
I've heard the end game is amazing.
It's amazing how much there's, like, I would say when you beat the game, you probably only beat 15 to 20% of the game.
Damn.
If you were just to get just enough to beat it.
I'm trying to do the math in my head. I think it's about somewhere between 15 and 20. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could beat the game. I mean, when I beat the game, I had 200 moons, which is the equivalent of like the stars that you collect, and there's 900. And so I beat it with about 200. I currently have 400 on the nose.
Yeah.
And there's 900
somewhere in there.
And there's still probably 3 or 4 like worlds I haven't found.
Korok seeds? It feels like Korok seeds?
It's a little bit more, I would say, entertaining, or it's not just going and picking up a plant you find. I mean, there's...
I think the Korok seeds, there's like 7 or 8 different puzzles, and they repeat themselves a million times. And that's just kind of like, they don't expect you to find them all. These ones, they varied enough that they really want you to go out there and actually find them.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very well done. You don't feel... It's hard to actually put it down. It's really addicting.
Yeah.
You want to just keep finding... You know, I'll play for 45 minutes, I'll have 30 new moons. And, I mean, you really get them pretty quickly. Now, granted, I'm assuming as I go further and further, they become harder to find. You do have a list, so you know how many there are in a world and how many's left. You could pay money to try to give you a hint to where they are. Yeah. But it's the story's same old story, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. And ending's pretty...
I disagree. I mean, the story, general gist of the story is same old thing, but there are some surprises throughout it that are a little different. Like, they mix it up.
I really like the wedding party. I think that was a very clever thing on it.
Yeah.
And the overall story is, it's not super crazy. It's not like as intricate as like Zelda. So I was trying to compare, like, what game do you like better? And I was kind of asking you. I know you guys, Brogan, you haven't beat it, but you have played it enough to kind of get the gist. But you guys, what do you guys think? What do you guys so far liked better? Was it Zelda or this game?
So let me first preface that with revealing how far I've gotten in this game, right? So I have not had a huge chance to play it. I've probably put in like 2 hours. I think maybe 2 hours, like, and that's probably on the higher end. Like, I'm on the 3rd level. I'm in the forest level. And, you know, I've taken my time on the first 2 levels. Like, I tried to be a completionist and, like, get all of the power stars the power moons that are, like, you know, like, templated for you in that level. But there's obviously way more than just what's templated for you in that level.
There is.
So from my impression of, like, the first 3 or so levels that I've played is that I'm really impressed with the pacing. Like, it doesn't require you to spend a lot of time on those levels. You're invited to, but it doesn't require you to. So you can feel like you can progress through the game pretty quickly if you're not a completionist, or you're not going to go get every single coin and every single power moon on the planet. You're encouraged to move along at a good pace. Now, having said that, I got to be honest with you, and this isn't a fair statement, but, like, I feel a little bored with it. Now, I think that's because I'm really early in the game, and I haven't, like, dedicated, like, a lot of time to sit down and play it. Okay, and part of my playthrough was with my wife, where we did the 2-controller setup, where you do the 2-controller setup, one person plays as the Hat, one person plays as Mario. I think part of the joy of playing it, in my experience, I've only played it once so far with the separated Wiimotes, or what are they called? Joy-Cons, the separated Joy-Cons, and, like, doing, like, the flick for, like, the hat and stuff. And when I did that, I was like, this is really enjoyable. Like, this is fun. Like, I get it. And it's impossible to really use the controller.
You can't. That's how I started.
Yeah.
That's how I started. I didn't know they were intended to be separated.
But to do, like, the circle hat movement and the up hat movement, like, it's so much easier to just use the one-handed or the 2 separated Joy-Con system. So, like, I don't think I've given it a fair shake. But like the few chances that I've had to play it, I brought my Switch with me while I was traveling this week, and like played it in my hotel, and I probably played it for like 20 minutes at a time, and I was like, I'm just gonna go to bed. Like, and it's the game is enjoyable and it's fun, but I'm playing it mobile and I'm not playing it on my TV, and like I don't feel like I've given it a fair shake.
This one's
yet,
a TV game.
Yeah, it feels that way to me too. Like it's nice to be able to have that console power on the go, but
because you can't play it like the Game Boy, you have to, like if you were to play it mobily, you got to set it up and separate the Joy-Cons from the screen. You know what I mean? And that, to my opinion, it kind of takes away from the mobile aspect if you got to set it up.
Yeah.
And so
you're just playing on a super tiny screen.
Yeah, and then now you're just playing on a tiny screen. You're not playing it.
Yeah.
So I do really, really enjoyed it. I am still playing it. Let me ask you this, and then won't give anything away. Do you have the King suit? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about because I've seen it, but no.
Okay.
Because I know Buddy has more moons than me, but I wanted to make sure I was better at something in the game than he was.
Well, okay.
And I got the King suit.
Oh, good job.
That was really hard.
How much time do you guys feel?
I think I know how to get it. I haven't gotten to that yet. I've started at the beginning. I'm going back and trying to 100% each world, and I'll get there.
That's what I'm doing.
How much time do you guys feel like you've invested so far in this
Honestly,
game?
I haven't really put that much time. Not like Zelda, I put more time than I would like to admit. This game, so I got it Friday after work. I played it for maybe an hour and a half before Kirsten and I went out to see a movie. And then I didn't play it Saturday, and then Sunday night I played it, and I beat it Monday afternoon. I mean, that's how fast I beat it.
Yeah.
And then I probably played it Tuesday, and I didn't play it at all yesterday. So I haven't played it as much as I thought I would have for as far as I've gotten. It's not that long of a game. It's really not. The main story.
Like the main story, if you're like just going objective to story objective, you could probably beat it easily in
one sitting, maybe two.
Honestly, yeah, a long sitting. Like I'd say, like 5 to 10.
Yeah,
it could be.
It's an 8-hour game. It's an 8-hour main story.
I think the speed run's already under 90 minutes for beating it just any percent.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I would say my one crux of this game is I feel like they could have stretched out that main story a little longer. It made you have to have a few more moons before you move on to the next phase.
Yeah. I mean, the way I went about it, I started trying 100% each world until I realized that after you finish some story objectives, things change. So I just have to go back and do it again.
Yeah, so that's what I did. So my first ones were always like 40 out of 60.
Yeah.
And then I would go like, okay, I'm going to go to the next one, see what that's like. And then later in the levels, I'm like 12 out of 70.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then just move to the next world.
So that's one thing that I want to bring up too is with games in general. Even games that I really love, and the example that I always bring up apparently on the show is the Batman games, the Arkham games, and Arkham Knight, the most recent one, had a really good end game where after you beat the game, you could go back and like do a couple missions against like the Penguin, or do a couple missions against the Riddler, or like find all the Riddler trophies or whatever it is. I'm just never motivated to do that. Once I beat a game, I'm like, I'm done with it, and like maybe I'll replay it. That's a different story. Like I'll be like, oh, okay. Like I've had the itch recently to replay Titanfall 2. Like I've had the itch to really go back and play that. So I could see that happening sometime soon. But like I'm more apt to go replay the main story than to play what to me feels like tack-ons. In your guys' opinion, having beaten this and seen the end game, is it a tack-on or is it?
I agree with you. For example, when I beat Zelda, I wanted to go back and get all the shrines. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that much fun. I wanted to beat all those little missions, but, really the main, like, experiencing all the new levels or the new areas and getting new items and stuff, that's the fun part of the game. So when you do all of that and what's left over is just collecting a few things that you don't even really care about, really takes away from the replayability. Mario does a very good job of, I would say it's one of the better games with the longevity of how much you're going to continue to play it after you beat that. Because the worlds change, you gain new worlds. I mean, new worlds I haven't even been to, and I'm unlocking them now. Yeah. And so the maps change drastically when you beat objectives, and then they change again once you beat the game. Mm-hmm. So going back, and you're not going back and just like, okay, I'm going to get a Korok seed. You're going back and you're getting what you started getting from the beginning of the game, which was moons. There's not an additional... Yeah, you can buy skins and certain things like that. But you're really encouraged and you really enjoy getting what you purposely were playing from the game in the first part. Zelda, the goal wasn't to get Korok seeds. The goal was to beat Ganon.
Yeah.
And then you beat Ganon and you're like, okay, now I'm going to get Korok seeds. This one's like collect moons, beat the game, you're still going to collect moons.
Yeah. And they amp up the challenge, too, in the post-game.
Yeah.
Like, there are the main worlds, right, the ones that you go through, but then they always have, like, little kind of spin-off, separate challenges and stuff, right? And throughout the main game, they're fairly straightforward. Most of them weren't very hard, but now when you go back, they add more of those, and they're much harder.
Yeah. And when you go and, like, Galaxy had it, Galaxy 2, when you go down a pipe and you lose your hat. So you lose the ability to do some of those really... things so you're doing basically an obstacle course from scratch like you were playing Super Mario 3.
Yeah. So since you've been through a lot of this, I don't know how many Mario games you've played. Do you think best 3D Mario?
I don't think it beats Mario 64.
Really?
I don't.
But, like, technically it beats Mario 64. Like, so this is the question that I always have. Like, so I agree with you. Like, from a nostalgia standpoint and what that game meant, and what that game meant to you, maybe what that game meant to you at the time, yes. But, like... the best 3D Mario is almost always the most recent 3D Mario. Just because of the technical advancements it made or like the way that you're playing the game has changed so much. Like if you stacked up like the technical...
I disagree with that.
I completely disagree with
Really?
that. Yeah.
I don't think they've gone best in order. I think like 3D World was kind of a step down from...
I don't consider that mainline. I think 3D World to me is like a good multiplayer, like a different version of the 2D
I mean,
Mario.
that's like you're saying, like, that means Resident Evil 4 was just better than Resident Evil 5. Or Resident Evil 5 is just automatically better than Resident Evil 4. Just because it's the newer. The new Assassin's Creed is better than the Pirates one, which I think everybody considers that one the best. Now, they haven't played this one. I mean, that just because it's the newest one. Yeah, sales might be higher. Great. That you can argue, like, a game's better if the sales are higher. The reason I say that the first one is the best is because I felt... there was only 120 stars. And you needed 70 of those to beat Bowser. I think the Bowser and the boss fights in Super Mario 64 were way more challenging and harder and more entertaining to fight. And I felt like getting those stars meant a lot more than just ground pounding one and finding it like you do now. I think this game is faster because, one, there's this inherent difference of when you get a star in Super Mario 64, you exit the level, and then you get back in and restart from the beginning. This one, you can pick up 30 in a run of 10 minutes without having to restart the level or start over. So I think that aspect, taking those like things out of it, has made this game more smoother. But I still think Super Mario 64 is a better game. I wouldn't say it's by far, but I do like. I think that gameplay was way more fun. I think it was way more challenging, and those levels were a lot better. Not a lot better, but way better and tougher and more interesting. And I don't think just throwing a hat and having the ability to take over somebody makes it better.
So that's another question then that I have for you guys. Does it get harder? Because in the first 3 levels that I've played so far, it's a pretty easy game. Like all of the solutions are right in front of you. Like it's not a super puzzling game.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I can figure things out relatively quickly. And the problem is like at the like if I can't if I figured it out and the only challenge might be like getting the button combination down to actually like do it. But I know what I'm supposed to do and that's always right. Like does that change throughout the game or
I would say, like, I've gone back to the first 2 worlds and gotten maybe, I don't know if there's, like, 67, and I've gotten maybe 58 of them. I have no idea where the last 8 are.
Yeah.
Without looking them up.
The challenge comes from, like, finding some of them, and some of them are really, like, mostly in the post-game. I'll say up until the end of the story, it probably is pretty
a
easy.
cinch. The main, this main story
the bosses that
cinch.
I fought so far are like, Jesus, they're so easy.
Yeah,
it's like a child's game. But that's okay. Like, I'm okay. Like, I don't want to make that sound like it's a knock. Like, for me, if the gameplay is solid enough and it's fun to do the easy things, it's worth my time.
Yeah.
And this game is. And Mario always is that to me, right? Like, you understand how to do it.
They add significant challenges to the post-game, which is why I was gloating about getting the royal suit, which took me about an hour to do last night.
I think if it's what I'm thinking of, I keep starting it and like dying.
Yeah, it's very and funny when you look back, you think this should be simple, and I kept dying. And but they have bosses later down the road that become challenging the post game. that they up a little bit, that make it a little bit more
It's
challenging.
like, if I'm going into a Mario game, I guess I'm not necessarily expecting challenge. Would I like it to be a little harder? Yeah, but they're trying to make it open to kind of everybody,
Yeah.
I think. And then the challenge is there if you want it in the post game.
I think the most challenging parts that I've played so far, again, I have such a limited sample size here, but the most challenging parts that I've played so far have been the 2D stuff. When you end up in